Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 4131BDGPKL. This is an automatic door bottom, is what this is. The 4131 is representative of the profile. This is a surface mount model. The BDG stands for Bright Dip Gold. That's the finish. The PKL stands for Pemko Prene. That is the insert that is used to do the seal of the automatic door bottom. That strip of black synthetic silicone type material that's here. Synthetic rubber, really. Okay. This is an automatic door bottom, and if you're not familiar with it, automatic door bottoms do exactly that. They automatically seal the bottom of the door when the door is closed, and there are very elegant solutions to sealing the bottom of a door for a few reasons that we'll get into in a moment. So let's start at the beginning with reviewing this. First of all, it's a surface mount model. Pemko has these available in semi-mortise models, okay, where you can mortise the bottom of the door so that the face of this was flush, and also mortised type. This is a full surface, but could also be installed in a semi-mortise installation, where this is, again, the bottom of the door is mortised so that the entire housing was flush with the face of the door. That's not an uncommon application for this. An automatic door bottom has two different ends to them, and both of the ends are different. You'll take note of what this end here looks like. And then the other side has got this bolt included in it, whereas the other end does not. We'll call the side without it the lock side, and the side with the bolt we're going to call the hinge side. So the question becomes, how does the door bottom work? Well, the bolt, or the drop bolt, is directly related to an apparatus on the inside of the unit. There's a flat spring that it's basically connected to. And when that bolt is pushed in, the flat spring will belly. That bellying action forces the drop bar, this entire assembly here that I'm tugging on, to seal or come down. Okay. When this unit is installed onto the door, when the door is pushed closed, because this is sticking out and this is installed on the hinge side, this will come in contact with the frame. When the door is finally pushed all the way closed, that has nowhere to go but in, putting into motion those interconnected pieces, making it seal. So I'll use my finger to emulate the door closing and making contact with the jamb. And what I'll do when I do this, push it in, you'll see that the bottom drops. And it does so unevenly, and that is a design of how these work. So when that's pushed in, the bottom drops out. Now, in a real application, what would happen is the bottom would make contact with the sill. And I'll use my thumb here to represent the sill. And as I do that, I restrict it dropping any further, and then what you see is that it drops evenly across the rest of the length of the automatic door bottom. So it somewhat drops like a guillotine, where one end comes down, then the other knife edges down and contours itself to whatever the sill really is, making it elegant. You can have a sill that's not level, a door that's not plumb, and the automatic door bottom will help, contend with that sort of installation. Whereas a typical door sweep, that when you open the door up, you might have a different flooring condition 3 feet inside than you would otherwise. What I'm meaning there is you might have an installation where when you open the door to 90 degrees, the door bottom is scraping off against the floor or whatever the case might be, whereas an automatic door bottom doesn't, get into a problematic area like that. The seal is always tucked up into the housing when the door is open. So you could have a residential application where the door swings in, most typically. This would be installed on the push side only. You wouldn't be able to install this on the pull side because the plunger or the drop bar wouldn't make contact with the frame at all if it was on the pull side. So the door swings in, you might have a rug under, in front of the door, you might have carpeting, you might have someone's shoe has been left there. When this is tucked up into the housing, no damage to anything. like you might on the door bottoms that are stapled to the bottom of the door. You don't have any sort of material running across a high polished, floor, maybe a gloss, type of wood floor as well. That makes it also an elegant solution. Now, there's a link below this video, or pardon me, there's an image below this video showing you everything important dimensionally about the item, and let's go over that now. First of all, you can see that the height of this, 1 in 27/32, so that's basically going to be, inch and 7/8, right in that range, overall height. 19/32 is what the body thickness is, so pretty close to 5/8. Okay. Maximum drop on this sort of unit is 3/4 inch. Now, and we'll talk about the installation procedure in a moment, but the amount that the bar is extended from the housing is directly related to the maximum drop. Okay. Now, this material can be cut in the field. There's evidence of the inner mechanism that's here, this rolled over pin. And generally, when a unit is 3 foot or longer, you can cut it down by about 4 inch. The fact that there's a screw here, and this happens to be a 32-inch model, tells me that you really won't be able to trim off more than about 2 inches in the field. I'm a big fan of ordering it from the factory, the exact length that you need, because, well, they're cutting it to length anyway. This is a manufactured item. They're going to cut it to 32 or 31 1/4 or whatever length you need. So since they're already cutting it and assembling it, just provide the actual length. In the comment field is how we'll know if you want it made to a custom size. So let's jump into the installation instructions and go over that now. Page 2 is really where they start. Number 1, if the automatic door bottom is to be installed in a semi-mortise, prepare the door according to the dimensions shown on the profile drawing on the front of the label. That image below the video we just discussed is what they're referring to here. It's the same image. The size that you order it is going to be dependent on whether you are surface mounting it or doing a semi-mortise. If you are surface mounting it, here's how you go about ordering the size you need. If you are surface mounting it, you'll stand on the push side of the door, you'll have the door closed, you'll measure the distance between the stops down at the bottom of the door, and then deduct 1/8 of an inch, and that's going to be the net size to order this. So if you had a 36-inch door and your stops were 5/8, that's 1 1/4, so 30. Nominally, if it was 36-inch, you would take off that 1 1/4, okay, and then another 1/8 of an inch. In reality, you just need to measure between the stops and deduct 1/8. It doesn't really matter what the door width is. But if you had a 36-inch door, less 1 3/8, you're going to be about 34 5/8 on a net length in that sort of example. Now, if you're going to do a semi-mortise, then the automatic door bottom doesn't come in contact with the stop at all, and you would be, since this would be flush to the face of the door, you would measure the actual width of the door, and that's pretty much what you want the automatic door bottom to be. You might have to contend with the wood door if it's beveled. You might want to, make it a 1/16 of an inch less in that sort of situation. But nonetheless, that's the guideline to go about ordering the size that you need. Step 2, talking about trimming it down if you've not ordered it the size you need. Anything below 24-inch cannot be cut down at all. 24-inch and greater can be cut down a maximum of 2 inch, and that is pretty much what the case is, as we had said earlier. And you always only cut off the lock side, the side opposite of the plunger bolt. You never would cut this side because that's where the apparatus is inside of here. When cutting, be sure that the drop bar is flush with the case on the plunger side and that the gasket insert projects at least 1/8 of an inch. So what they're saying is that the drop bar is this housing that the Pemko Prene sits in. You want to make sure that it's flush to the end here, and that your material, your actual Pemko Prene, sticks out about 1/8 of an inch. Then, once you know that it's flush here, you can go ahead and cut the opposite end. Now, the reason that they want the Pemko preen to stick out 1/8 of an inch is because when the bottom drops, it doesn't drop straight. It actually drops more in this sort of fashion, where the entire drop bar mechanism doesn't drop straight down. It drops down on an angle. So they're accounting for the fact that it drops down at an angle, which is why you need to have a bit of that material sticking out, because it's no longer in the same sort of position because of how it moves after it drops. Step 4, moving on for semi-mortise installation, cut the automatic door bottom to the door width. We've discussed that. For surface mount, cut the automatic door bottom 1/8 of an inch less than the distance between the stops. We've covered that. Adjust and trim the gasketing insert so that it projects at least 1/16 at each end of the drop bar and the case. You want a little bit of it hanging out there because there's a margin between the jambs and your door, typically 1/16, 3/32, 1/8 of an inch. You want to make sure that you've got proper sealing there. Number 6, with the actuating plunger at the hinge side, fasten the automatic door bottom with the screws provided. These type automatic bottom screws will accommodate hollow metal and wood doors. So you're going to get with your item fasteners in a complementary finish, and they're going to go right through the housing with the holes provided. This unit, of course, is long enough where that it has 3 holes. Okay. They're saying these screws will work on a wood or a hollow metal door. That's correct. Step 7, you can see for surface mounted installation, the plunger contacts the stops or makes contact with the stop. Pushing the door closed forces that down. At this point, there's going to be another screw in the screw package, this undercut flathead sort of screw. You're going to install that if you've got a wood frame, such that the plunger will make contact with the head of that screw every time. This will create a divot in your wood frame over time, damaging the frame and, not allowing the automatic door bottom to work properly. So you want to make sure that that's the case, whether it's semi-mortise or surface mounted. Moving on to step 9, the underside edge of the automatic door bottom should be installed flush with the bottom of the door. For wood jambs, use that screw that we just discussed at the point where the plunger contacts the jamb to prevent indenting. Screw the actuating plunger in or out as required until the gasketing insert just touches the sealing surface when the door is closed. So, when you get this installed on the door, before you start to test it, take that and turn it clockwise and get it about 1/8 of an inch sticking out of the edge of the housing. You'll be able to use a typical number 2 Phillips drive on that. Okay, so you have it drawn in to about 1/8 of an inch, then you can start to test the door and you'll be able to observe how it drops. It can only drop so far before the bolt flushes off to the end of the housing, not allowing it to drop any further. So begin to test it. Then take it, maybe turn that out counterclockwise, a revolution or 2. Then you'll see it'll drop more, and you continue to do that so that you have this item making contact with the floor, but not so much that it's pushing down excessively on the sill, because as soon as you start to open the door, you want that automatic door bottom drop bar to begin to retract up into the housing, because you'll damage the unit if you are pushing the door open and it's not yet retracting up into the housing. You want contact, nothing more than that. Number 11, screw the actuating plunger in or out as required until the gasketing insert just touches the sealing surface. Okay, we discussed that. It is only necessary to lightly compress the insert against the sealing surface to provide a good seal. Further adjustments may be required for uneven surfaces. Not sure how you could further adjust this for an uneven floor surface. Well, meaning you might have such an uneven floor surface that you need to have one end pushing down a little bit more just to get the opposite end to drop even further. That's probably what they mean. The rest of the screw package is accounted for, except that there are 2 black pieces of metal, and these are called end caps. Okay, one has a hole for the plunger, and the other does not. that is obviously going to be installed so that you dress off the end of the housing, just like this, so it looks nice and finished. Ooh. Okay, a couple little holes there for screws, and those little screws are included, and they will thread right into these two little circular areas at both ends. And obviously that blank plate goes on the lock side. Okay, available in several different finishes, and this is a standard duty item, appropriate for residential use. Now, I've seen these automatic door bottoms, you know, effectively working several years down the road, and it's because they're, you know, they don't encounter a lot of abuse. There's not a lot to deteriorate the ceiling edge of it when all it's doing really is pushing down rather than being dragged across a concrete floor or whatever the case might be. Pemko is a full-line manufacturer of all things automatic door bottom related, standard duty, heavy duty, material made for acoustical applications, different insert material, nylon brush, sponge neoprene, etc., etc. So if you have any questions on the Pemko 4131BDGPKL automatic door bottom or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.